So for this video, I'm going to be starting to dismantle the 3408, starting with the water pump. So remove the link pipe and made a start on these horrid studs that sit behind it. Yeah, as you can see here, they all came undone, which I was quite amazed by. But you've then got to remove this piece, which is the idler pulley, and some of those bolts snapped. You've got to remove the idler because the water pump's got a link pipe between the thermostat and the pump. So that's it removed. Obviously crank pulleys off as well because that's in the way of the link pipe. So with the water pump and link pipe removed, as well as the idler and everything, I'm now going to start taking the injection pump off. To do this, everything's a 9/16 headed 3/8 bolt, but first of all you've got to expose this by removing this part of the timing cover. Unfortunately 2 bolts snapped, which made it a pain. Now it's that plug there, which is a 9/16, and it wasn't very tight, luckily, but you take that out and it gives you access to the camshaft inside the injection pump. So I'm going to turn the engine over clockwise with that bar using the crank bolts, and I'm going to try and show you the slot in the camshaft for the pin. Essentially, as you turn the engine over, it will drop in. There's a specific cat timing tool for this, but you don't need it. 1/4" Allen key. You see that's slotted in now, and that locks the pump at top dead centre on number 1 cylinder. You'll be able to see here I can't rotate the engine anymore with the bar. So that's that. Next up is removing the 4 12-point half-inch headed bolts that hold the automatic timing gear on. So next up, half-inch headed 12-point bolts, and you undo these to remove the automatic timing advance gear. So it's a spring-loaded gear that advances the pump or retards the pump depending on RPM. So once that's off, you can wiggle it loose. It's not on a keyway or anything, it's just held on by the bolts and that retainer plate. And I think they're done up to 100 foot-pounds, but when I reassemble it, I'll go through all the torque specs as well. So off that comes, and it'll expose the camshaft of the injection pump, meaning you can then pull the injection pump back through the timing cover. And as you can see here, that's what you're left with. So it's just sealed in with an O-ring. So that's the gear. Yeah, so it's spring-loaded hub inside that, as it advances it or retards it, and I'll take that apart, check the numbers, because I may have to change the springs in order to get the timing correct for more power. Here I'm just removing a stud that was left in the block after removing the idler gear, the idler pulley. Amazingly it came out, and these stud extractors are pretty good. It's like a drill chuck. So this is now the most awkward part, removing the 4 base bolts for the injector pump. You can see there's another couple of support bolts at the front. They need to come out, but these are all, again, 9/16 headed bolts, and you can do it with a special tool from Cat, or you can break them loose with a small ring spanner and then use an open-ended wrench. So there's 4 base plate bolts which hold it to the block, and then there's a few support bolts once they're all removed, what you can do is wiggle the pump loose. But before I do that, I need to remove a couple of these remaining fuel lines or air lines that have just rotted away. You can see the state of that union. There's no way the 9/16 was going to turn that anymore. So just wait till I've finished undoing that. Now, I would have undone all the injector lines, but they are really awkward, and I was trying to avoid getting more rust to drop everywhere. So we've left them, pried the pump loose off its base plate, off the block, and just by working it back and forth by hand, it eventually popped out the timing cover. Now you can see just how crusty and horrid it is, and all the crap that was left in the bottom of the block, at the bottom of the valley. So I have plugged up the oil feed and drain holes, but this whole block is going to need to be cleaned and flushed in order to make sure there's nothing in the oil galleries. So now I'm going to take the aftercooler core out. To start this, you're going to remove the water pipes that feed it and return to the block, which you can see here. This is the block return. Just stuck on to beat the crap out of this with a hammer in order to get it to release, and obviously pry it with a big bar as well. But with them off, you can then start to pry the coupling flanges. You see the rusty coupling flange and the rotten interconnecting sleeve. I've already taken one out here, which just sort of disintegrated on me. There it is. But essentially that's what holds the aftercooler core in besides the bolts. There we go, that's that one out. You can see it just crumbled away. And yeah, that. So you can now pull the core out, and you'll see just how much crud it's left inside the intake manifold. Oh, just removing the last piece. There we go. So that's now freed up. Out comes the core. And you're left with sort of the charge cooler box. You see the pieces that have sort of all fallen into it and all the rotten alley. So again, 9/16 bolts, or 9/16 head. So I'm just going to remove these, and then I can pull it off. I can pull the box off the manifold. So with the box off, it exposes the intake into the heads, and you can see again just how much crap's in there. So I'll be vacuuming that all out and making sure it's spotless before it goes back together. And there's your water inlet, or water outlet rather, back into the block. That's going to come off, and I'm going to make a blanking plate because I don't need it anymore. With air to air, that's obsolete. It just tidies up some of the pipe work and means I don't have to buy or make these pipes that are sort of rotten, broken, and very expensive being Caterpillar. So just whiz these off. So this isn't even sort of all the stuff that was there, as I'd already scraped quite a bit off, just to get access to the bolts. And when I was removing the turbo and other bits, you can see just how much is built up and rotted over the years. So at this point, I've now got the injector pump on the floor, just resting on a jacket to protect the base of it. Removed the injection lines, and yeah, you can see that's the water pump that's come off, and the fan belt pulley, And this is sort of what was left of the injection pump. You can see how horrid and full of crud it was. That crud all came off the injection lines. It wasn't actually in it. So the injectors are still good, but I will be replacing the nozzles for higher horsepower ones. So that's it for this video. Next time I'll be cleaning all this crap up and I'll start to strip the pump down. I'll make sure I bring my GoPro as well so I can take a proper video. And obviously when this all goes back together, I'll do a proper workshop manual style video as well. There's just not a lot of information out there on the 3408s, so if I can do a workshop manual style video for the components as I go through and rebuild this, it'll at least help people in the future, because I've had to do a load of research to get information on how to strip this down, and then obviously as I'm going through it, which parts I need to get to rebuild it, and I'll make sure I include part numbers, kit numbers, etc., and all the torque specifications for the engine, just because it'll make life a hell of a lot easier for someone else in the future. As if I could have found a YouTube video on how to strip these down, it would have definitely helped. The old workshop manuals aren't the greatest. I mean, they go into a lot of detail, but they don't show, they don't show you a step-by-step guide or anything like that as far as pictorials go. And certain things are just awkward to reach. So I did also forget to upload this a while back, which is me repairing the valve covers. There's no welding shots, but you can see what I've done. So soaked everything in brake clean, preheated, kind of. I did preheat it properly with a torch before starting to weld. But basically, those lower covers are like $500 each if you can find them, and then plus shipping and taxes to the UK, so that's just a no-go. What I've done is cleaned everything up where I was going to weld with a file, back to clean metal, and wait for the next picture to load. You can see here, like, all the crap's been removed and I've started to build it back up. Once built up, see, marked it against the good cover and started to shape it back to where it should be. So there you have sort of the finished article of one of the ears anyway, and it looks pretty much factory. Same with the rail that holds the gasket material. So I've got a little bit more welding to do on one of the covers and a couple of stuck bolts to remove, but they're usable again, which is quite a big saving money-wise.